Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. It's the 8th again. This is where I go round looking at everything that's actually in bloom on this day. So no buds or spikes or anything like that. No coming soon and no just gone. These are those that are out today. So we'll start over here. And this little beauty is Wildcat Cheetah. It's one of my favourite intragenerics. It's just the combination of colours and the pattern, I think. It's just, you know, it blooms regularly around this time, and so far it only produces one growth at once. It would be nice to get two, but we'll see how that goes. But that's looking nice at the moment. Reasonable spike. What have we got? 3, 6, 8 blooms on that one. So lovely colours. Good sturdy waxy blooms these are, and the delicate tiniest little spots on the lip, as you normally tend to get blotchy things on orchids, but those spots are absolutely minute. So that's that one. I'm just going to move round as I go. My Odontoglossum species, now EVM, these 4 spikes opened in sequence, so they will go down in sequence, and unfortunately the first one's just started to go. They opened out over a period of about a week, maybe a little more, so possibly only a week or so to go with this one. But I like this one really for every single reason. The only thing it hasn't got is decent fragrance, but for me it's got everything else going for it. It's the shape, the frilliness, the twisty bits, lovely spotting and a lovely yellow in the centre. I really do like that one an awful lot. A strange thing at this time of year, but I've got no Restrepias open at the moment. They're all either just finishing or producing buds, but they're not actually out. So none of those today, which is good because they need the tripod really. My Shelob Tolkien is looking very good. It's highly likely this one will go to Malvern. I was asked to sort out some plants if I could, and I said I'll see what I've got. But the cut-off is like Tuesday evening. I've got to get the plants to their collection point on Tuesday evening, which means it'll be away from me until probably Monday evening, because the show closes on Sunday. All the plants have got to stay there. They'll get packed up Sunday evening, brought back, and I can go and collect them on Monday sometime. So it's a shame. I'd be sorry to lose it for that amount of time, but as a member of the Orchid Society, I sort of feel a duty bound to contribute. And I mean, this, you know, this has got 3 spikes out. By the end of next week, the 4th one may well be open, and they do last a while, so it should be in good condition by the time it gets there. So yeah, I think that one will be off to Malvern. Coming down, the only Miltoniopsis that's out at the moment is Herr Alexander, endearingly known as Donald. That did have 2 blooms on that spike, and I knocked it basically. I broke one of the buds off, so it's a single bloom at the moment. Several of the others have got spikes pushing on, but that's the only, whoops, give it a whack, why don't you? That's the only one actually out at the moment. Lovely fragrance on that, a bit soapy, sort of floral with a hint of soap sort of thing, but fragrant nonetheless, and lovely colours, patterns. That's that one. This one often gets forgotten, poor thing, so I've actually raised it up a shelf so it gets a better view. This is Phalaenopsis Sweet Memory, and these blooms have been out a very long time, and I noticed, well, only the other day really, the original spike is here, yeah, and I think that had 3 or 4 blooms on, and then it branched in 2 places and produced these blooms. And now the branches are branching, and there's some more buds to come, and I think the original spike's going to extend as well. So hopefully that should be in bloom an awful lot longer now. The Prosthechea radiatas, both of them, they're both open at the moment. Hopefully they're not going to be in my grow room much longer, because these are destined to go off to somebody else. in the giveaway drawer. Very, very lovely blooms, lovely clean cut blooms. Patterning is all in the hood or lip, but they open upside down, so I always call it a hood. Nice fragrance on that as well, quite powerful. And that was open at the New Forest show last year, and we had a section of plants for sticking your nose in. You know, we put all the fragrant ones up the end where people could get at them, and some people actually reared away from this saying, "Oh, not so keen on that." But only a small percentage. Our noses are all different. We perceive fragrance in different manners, but most of the people, and certainly myself, actually find it quite pleasant. But it's quite strong. Prosthechea radiata. Ow. Up here, Dendrobium hercoglossum is coming to a close. There's still a couple of buds left to go up the top here, but it's still got quite a few out. The plant spreads itself around a bit because we've got blooms down here, up through here, up to this cane out here, and right over to those canes over there. It is a spreading plant. I mean, I've had this one a very long time. These are lovely, delicate blooms. Lovely shade of pink. A centre that's so dark against those light colours it almost looks black, but it's a deep purple. Lovely blooms. That's still one of my favourite dendrobiums. And I moved one of my Disas out so that I could get a closer look at them. They're on a lower shelf normally. This is Disa cuensis, and even on an individual spike you do get variation in colour on Disas. If you look at the depth of the colour on the sections there and then compare it with this one, they're quite a different pink. Yeah, and yet they're all off the same plant. But the delicacy of these is in the centre of the hood, the top section. It's a lovely deep yellow with very dark red spotting on it. Then you've got the lovely pattern, and then an unusual shape for an orchid. I do like that one a lot. I'm going to try and get some more Disas if I can at Malvern when I get there. If there's any there, don't stand in my way. What else have we got lurking? This is just going to go, but it's still got some blooms that haven't gone yet. This is a Dendrobium Phalaenopsis type, and it's Thai Angel. And these blooms have been out absolutely ages. Nice patterning on this, nice shade of pinky purple, but delicate patterns on all parts. So it's a little unusual for a Phalaenopsis type. They often have plain sepals and patterning on the petals and lip. But nice attractive blooms nonetheless. Scanning the shelves as I go around, don't want to miss anything. The radicans type Epidendrum, that is Comet Valley Orange Star. It is starting to thin a little now. There's still buds pushing up through the centre, so it's still going to carry on blooming for some time yet, but the rate at which the buds are opening is now less than the rate at which the old blooms are fading. So it's still probably got at least another month, maybe even 2 to go. It's a lovely splash of orange up high in an area in the grow room with very little else going on, quite honestly. So yeah, lovely splash of orange up there. Let's do the Tolumnias next. This is recently opened. This is Pink Sunset. It's all in the name, you know. And this is a nice spike. The blooms are opening nice and even down both sides towards the tip. And if you've got Tolumnias and you've got a spike and it's in bloom, don't cut it. They will often branch. As the blooms start to fade, they'll push a branch out, sometimes 2. And then sometimes even the branches will branch. So don't cut your spike until it goes really brown and dies right back. Then it's worth taking it off. But these do branch. This one over here is, I've forgotten. I'll be doing pop-ups for the names anyway. It's something like Black Magic, I think this one was called. These have been out some time. There's no sign of the spike actually branching yet. As far as I know, I haven't come across anybody that says they've got a Tolumnia that's fragrant. They don't seem to be fragrant. I could be wrong. I mean, obviously I haven't seen and sniffed every single Tolumnia in the world, but certainly none of the blooms I've had have ever been fragrant. And let's just get this Brassia spike out of the way for a second or two. My species Tolumnia, Europhila, this has come out bang on time, although it missed a year. 2 years ago this went to Malvern. It's actually got a culture award at Malvern, which I was well pleased with. Being a species, the blooms are a bit smaller, but that doesn't make them any less attractive. I mean, that's a lovely, bright, deep yellow with the red markings at the top. Typical Tolumnia shape. More so, really, because it's a species. I'm going to sneeze now because the Brassia spike's right in my nose. No, got away with it. Right, the Brassia. This is Chieftain Ludlows, an excellent spike. Absolutely well pleased with this. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 blooms on this. Well pleased. And it's going to do this. I love it when it does this. Shelob Tolkien will do this too. Let's just go back a minute. If you look at the colours on the lip, the creamy blotches with the brown splash in the middle have got quite distinct edges. As the blooms start to die, the colours wash as though it was like a watercolour and somebody's dropped some water on it. And this is doing the same thing. And you can see what I mean. This was the first bloom to open, so it's going to be the first one to go. And the brown spots that are very, very distinctive on the lip wash as though somebody's dripped water on them. They change colour and the colour seeps out. They look absolutely gorgeous. It's just a shame. It means the bloom's dying. But it's been out a reasonable time. They're not hugely long-lasting Brassias anyway. Some are, but this one's not. It's quite a complex hybrid. Actually, is it a complex hybrid? I think it's actually it's a species cross with a hybrid, so it's not a primary cross as such. But attractive blooms, very spidery, very large. Some of these blooms, I think this is probably the largest one, and that's about 10, maybe 11 inches from tip to toe. So they're pretty large, but typical spidery nonsense. That's what they look like. And oh, I mustn't forget this down here. This will be gone soon. In two senses, both the blooms will be gone soon, and so will the plant, because that's in the prize draw as well. That's Spring Dream Apollon. That's been filmed so many times. It's been out in bloom on 2 separate plants for a very long time now. But the blooms are just coming to their close. Out of my nobly types, I do like this one because it's delicate colours rather than bright, shouty, loud colours like some of them are. So that'll be gone soon. Ooh. Right, let's get in round the yellows then. Dendrobium Wedding Bells is still looking absolutely excellent. I'll have to give that a good look over at the beginning of next week. It might not last long enough to be able to go to Malvern. It would be nice if it could go, because it is a mass blooming this time round. But if some of the blooms are starting to go, they did all open quite close together. So if they're starting to go on Tuesday, they might not make it till Sunday, and they're not going to want a plant in a display with fading and dropping blooms. So I'll have to look into that one. But lovely colours, again, nice yellow, nice deep red in the lip, with veining on the lip too. So that looks good. I'll have to come round here now. This massive yellow here. This is Dendrobium harveyanum, the frilly one. It's unusual in as much as the petals as well as the lip are frilly. So a lot of frilliness going on there. There's quite a few more. Oh, here we go again. I'm going to sneeze. I've got my head in this Brassia spike. It gets right up your nose, that fragrance. It's nice, but you know, not right up your nose. So that's Dendrobium harveyanum in amongst the yellows. Down here is my Neophonetia. The hybrid name on this is in Japanese Higashi demi blah blah, something like that. I'll do names. I'm not going to try and pronounce that. But this hasn't bloomed for a very long time, so it's nice to see the blooms back again. Fragrance on this is night scented, and it's strong and very, very heady. Very pleasant, but it's a heavy fragrance. It sort of hangs in the air. Absolutely gorgeous. Honey with hints of other things. It's a very sweet, heavy fragrance, and from such tiny little blooms, come out here after dark, after about an hour of total darkness, and this grow room is completely filled with the fragrance from these 4 tiny little blooms. So I'm pleased that that one's come out. It hasn't been with me for some time. The plant has, but not the blooms. What else have we got? So I'm just checking. The Dendrobium Hibiki is out now, just about. The first 2 blooms have sort of opened. They don't open much more than that. They do bloom in clusters. So they tend to have their blooms very tightly clustered together, quite a lot of them, but they do have a sort of squashed look. But nonetheless, lovely, lovely colour. And I'll have to see how many of those are out, because if most of the clusters, I think there's 6 clusters, have got some blooms open by Tuesday, that can go to Malvern. That'd be a nice splash of a colour that there won't be much else of this time of year, I doubt. So that will look good. And what else have we got over here? Oh dear. So I shouldn't hold the camera right up above my head like that. Do my shoulder any good. And Dendrobium senile, these blooms are lasting well. I'd forgotten that they did that. So the previous plant I had that died did actually bloom. I think it either had 1 or maybe 2 blooms on it. This one I wasn't expecting to bloom this year because I didn't rest it during the winter. But nonetheless, 4 lovely blooms. And again, these are sturdy blooms, waxy sort of feel, strong sort of sturdiness to them. And it's difficult, I don't know if the camera really represents it, but it's difficult to describe the colour in the lip. Obviously it's a palish yellow, then it goes to a very deep yellow, then it changes to something else that's bordering on green, but it's a difficult colour to describe. And then right in the depths of the lip is an even deeper yellow with a little touch of red. So very, very delicate looking, but sturdy looking, sturdy structure to the blooms. Good strong blooms on that. Some nice new growths on that coming on now too. And I think, yeah, we're down to the last one. And the last one is old Stinky Poo over here. Rodriguezia leeana. Unusual shape to these blooms. Let's see if I can get some light on them. Quite unusual. The lip curls under itself, patterning near the top. It's got like a ridge down the centre, and then the lip itself has got ridges. That's not patterns on the edges of the lip, left and right. They're ridges. So it's a very unusual shape. And then the petals curl backwards as well. Let's see if we can get a side view. So I'm not getting too close to this because it stinks. So they're unusual to look at, unusual blooms, and a very pale colour. Most of the colour really is on the back, where you've got sort of peachy, pinky colours, very pale pastel shades, no bright colours on here, although there is some good red in the depth of the lip. Some nice patterning. Very unusual, but a right stinker. I wasn't expecting that. But it's not, I mean, I'm getting a whiff of it now because I've moved the blooms. It's dull light in here today, it's a dull day again. But but I'm still, what am I? Physically, I'm 2 foot away from those blooms, and I can still catch a whiff of it in the background. He says, backing up a bit. That's far from my favourite fragrance, if you can call it that. It's more better word than fragrance is stink, actually. Not pleasant, that one. I lied, that wasn't the last one. In this tangle and sea of yellow over here, I walked all round this, literally all round it, didn't actually film it. It's outrageous. How can you forget this one? If this one's still looking good, this will go to Malvern because of the sheer show, the spectacle. It is quite a mass blooming this time round. It's an unusual one. There's not a lot of people would have this as well. So yeah, this if it's still looking good, this will go. This is Dendrobium friedericksianum, and again, this reflects the colours of Dendrobium senile. They are so similar. And again, it's difficult to describe the greeny colour in there. Palish yellow, I mean these are quite delicate blooms, they have a flimsiness to them, almost transparent against the light. And then they've got the pale yellow round the lip, then it goes to a deep yellow, and then it goes to a greeny, bronzy colour. It's so difficult to find the right words to say what that colour is, but it's incredibly similar to Dendrobium senile. These have got veining on the lip, which the senile hasn't got, and they're slightly larger as well. Yeah, so that really is it. How can you miss that? Duh. And that's it for this time. I've always said one day I'm going to come out here and there'll be nothing in bloom, but I know there's a lot more spikes and buds coming on in the background. So as things fade and disappear, especially the sort of fixed time ones as I call them, they bloom at around the same time year in, year out. They just have that pattern. But others, you know, have got shorter cycles in their growing patterns, so they're not annual. So some others can bloom at all sorts of times, and there's a few of those coming on in the background there. So that's today's Everything in Bloom, and I'll say on the end of this video, I'll probably repeat myself several times over the next week or so. I am going to the Malvern show. That's the Malvern Three Counties show. It's held in the Malvern Showground, but effectively contained within it is the International Orchid Show. This is now probably the only large orchid show left in the UK. There isn't anything else. They're all fading away slowly but surely. And there's a rumour that this might be the last year that the International Orchid Festival is held at the Malvern Show. I don't know why, I haven't heard, but I've heard rumours this could be the last one. Now I'm going on the Friday with my daughter, and I'll put an idea out that, well, I'll confirm it up later, but the idea I think is to have like a meeting point and a meeting time where all YouTubers can gather together. All three of us. Or four of us maybe. I know of, including myself, I know 3 others that are definitely going. There could be more. But my idea is that in the Orchid Marquee, yeah, which from my point of view is where I will be spending most of my time, there's a lot to see, and I'm only going for one day, even though it's a 3-day event. So I've got a lot to see, and I may even buy some orchids there. I've also got a lot to film while I'm there. I want to do a video of all the individual Orchid Society displays as a separate entity. I'll also do a sort of wander around filming some of the vendors and, you know, some longer shots of what the marquee looks like, and the sea of people getting in the way of the plants, you know, all that sort of stuff like one does at a show. But it is in a tent. The light levels are not brilliant in there, but if the sun's out, they're plenty bright enough to film reasonably well. So but my idea is that, let's say I may change this, at 1 o'clock everybody meets in front of the Bournemouth Orchid Society display in the orchid marquee. So that gives us a fixed point and a fixed time. The chances are anybody that's there will have bumped into each other several times by then, but it might be nice to meet up and just go for a coffee and a chat or something, or if it's a nice day, have an ice cream or something, you know, and just have a little chin wag. YouTubers don't get to meet very often. It's all done, you know, on our YouTube channels via our videos, but to actually meet up in person now and again, it is quite nice to see the real people behind the camera, if you know what I mean. So that's an idea. 1 o'clock in front of the Bournemouth Orchid Society display, or by it. I've got a feeling our display might be away from the back wall. So you might be able to walk all round it, I don't know. You certainly could last year. But yeah, somewhere in that marquee will be the Bournemouth Orchid Society display, and we'll meet up somewhere around there at 1 o'clock on the Friday if you're there. Yeah? And that'll be good. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.